Greetings, everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Okay, today we're going to continue in part 2 of our compounding series. Before we do that, let's get into our foundation. And for that, we're going to go to the book of Matthew. And we're going to go to one of my favorite parables. And it says that he also that had received 2 talents came and said, Lord, thou deliveredst me with 2 talents. Behold, I have gained 2 other talents beside them. His Lord said unto him, Well done, good and faithful servant. Thou hast been faithful over the few things. I will make thee ruler over many things. Enter thou into the joy of thy Lord. You know what I like the most about that verse? It's not only does it set the expectation that we are to invest what we have, but here's the good part. There's an expectation of return on that investment, right? So when we look at this verse as our foundation, let's remember the key terms in here, which are increase, 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 period. Okay, everyone, let's get into today's lesson. All right. So you remember the magic penny, right? Let's do a little review, right? And remember that between day 1 and 10, we grew to 1024, right? By day 20, we were at 5,242. By day 28, we were at 1,000,003. And finally, by day 30, we're at over $5.3 million, right? Okay. So how are we going to apply that? First of all, we're not going to overcomplicate this thing. We're going to do some basic math. Now, when you think about it, the only thing that's happening to increase the penny every day is it's doubling, right? So if we translate that into our portfolios, we're looking for 100% return, because 100% return will double the amount of money that you have currently. Okay, so as we dive deeper into that, are we going to be able to double our account every day? Of course not. But if we can break it down brick by brick and break it up into micro doses, on the macro side, you're going to see how it all ends up in the end, just like it did on day 30 with the penny. Okay, so here we go. Check this out. So if you were to grow your account by 2% a day, which is going to be our target, how long would it take before you made 100% return on your account? Well, according to the daily compound calculator, it takes about 2 months. So every 2 months, you're going to see with consistency 100% return on your investment, right? That's what's possible. And if that's the case, getting back to the magic penny, then that means every 2 months I get a day. But let's not look at it like that. Let's just look at it as milestones. And with that thought process, I submit to you that we only need 9 cycles of 100% growth. And what that will do is over the course of 18 months, meaning, right, every 2 months, we hit a milestone. And honestly, that's all we're focused on at the time. We're going from milestone to milestone to milestone, brick by brick. Let's flip to another slide so I can show you how this looks, right? So our first cycle, our first flip is going to be that $500 we're starting with. And yes, you might be thinking, I thought you said we would start with $250 or $300. Well, look, it's going to take you a couple months to get all of this down pack and get ready to go. So while we're doing that, you can save a little bit. Go ahead and get up to $500, right? You can do this without that. You can start with $100. You can start with $250. But I want to start you guys at $500. I think that's going to give you the best bang for your buck. And as long as we follow the plan and take our time, you actually won't have to reinvest. So that's a good thing. All right, so let's talk about it. On your first flip, we're going from 500 to 1,000, right? That's month 1 through 2. Okay, and let's move right along. Then we go from 1,000 to 2, 2 to 4, 4 to 8, 8 to 16, 16 to 32, 32 to 64, 64 to 128, and then finally 128 to 254, right? 9 cycles, brick by brick, 2% a day, slowly growing, starting off kind of like getting your footing, and letting the work. So look, let's get to the sauce of this. How are we going to apply this knowledge? Because it's one thing to do it and say it and look at it on the calculator, but how do we get this from concept to application? Let's put a little sauce on it. All right, so when you have a $500 account, this is what we're thinking about. We're going to take a 20% risk of that amount and put at risk $100, $100 out of your 500. All right, and everything we enter with a plan. The plan is to do a 1 to 2 R&R, return on your investment. So what that means is that you're going to risk 20% to make 40%. Okay. And how that looks is simple. At that $100, you got $20 as your stop loss, meaning if the trade doesn't work, it goes against you, fine. You lose your $20, you take a paper cut, you're down to 480, you're still in the game, no problem. We do it again, right? Or we go to our $40 target. Now, here's the thing. That may take you one trade of a 40%, or that may take you 4 trades of 10%. It may take you 2 trades of 20%. It depends on the week, but that's pretty much where you're trying to end the week at, right around that $40 target, because what that's going to do is it's going to keep you on schedule. It's going to put you right about 9.5% of your portfolio, which is what you're going to need to make a week, which is very attainable. And not only very attainable, but it's a nice way to ramp into an account and not chase gains or chase, speeding up the process, right? And then as we go along, right, at that $1,000 account, as you can see there, that $200 goes up. Now your stop loss goes to 40, and then your target is 80. Now look, I'm not going to waste your time going through and reading all of this. You guys can see the screen. You can see it clearly how you get from 500 to 16,000. And then even from there, obviously, it would be the same principle. You're putting about 20% of your portfolio at risk, but of that 20%, you're actually only risking 4%, which is nothing more than a paper cut, right? And then you take another shot and you keep taking your shots as you grow, as you learn. And this is how you build an account. This is how you build an account. This is how you use great risk management. So you're looking for contracts in the beginning of, maybe that looks like one contract. Maybe you find $100 contract. Maybe you get lucky and find a $50 contract and you can get 2 of them, right? But as you increase in value over the course of time, you're going to be able to increase your risk while also keeping the same principles that you had at $500 when you get to $250,000. And really, if you look through this, the other cool thing that I like is the $20 becomes 40, becomes 80, becomes 160, becomes 320. So you're actually increasing your risk tolerance little bit by little bit without even really getting into it, right? Because when you started at $500, of course you wouldn't have wanted to risk $320 of it, right? That wouldn't even make sense. You'll be starting all over, right? But it gradually increases you into it and gets you comfortable and more comfortable with taking a loss, because to get the win, sometimes you have to take a loss. You have to be at least willing to, right? And the same thing with your targets. Your targets are getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So yeah, maybe you're not celebrating the $40 that much in the beginning. I hope you are, because it's the same muscle that it's going to take at $16,000 when you're making $1,280, right? So this is how we do it. You take a little bit of your portfolio, 20% up for risk. You put of that 20% of your portfolio, right? And the only thing you're going to do is you can do the math. You can increase every week based upon the size of your account, right? You just take a simple calculator, divide whatever you have there by 20%. That's going to give you what you should have at risk. Okay. And then you put that 20% stop loss, you calculate that, and you put that in as you put the order in. You automate that, right? Because it's very difficult sometimes to cut your loss. So if you go in it with the rule that the stop loss is in, then guess what? Let it stop you out. You had a bad entry, get back in. Don't be one of these people that say, oh man, it got me stopped out and then it went to the target. That's okay. Keep your eye on it. right? Keep your eye on it. Maybe you got a bad entry. We don't always get sniper entries. Sometimes there's a pullback before it actually makes the move. So that just means, okay, cool, I got in at the wrong time, cut it, bam, I'm back into it. I lost $20, but look, now I made my 40. All good. So now I'm up $20. That's the point of the risk to reward being 1 and 2. You don't have to win every time. You just have to win consistently. And that's what we're going to do. That's how we're going to look at it. And look, once you hit your target for the week, don't go chasing for the next week. You don't have to speed up this process. To be honest with you, the $40 is great. Take your win and then start preparing for next week. Start preparing for the next trade, but don't be in a big rush to circumvent the process and get to your milestones quicker. It's unnecessary. As I just showed you, if we take it brick by brick, this is how you apply knowledge and get the result that you're looking for. I love what King Solomon said in Proverbs, that money that comes easily disappears quickly, but money that is gathered little by little will grow. That's awesome. So look, we want to make sure that we're getting rich fast, but growing wealth slow. What do I mean by get rich fast? You just said to take your time. Well, what do we know about time? Time is very relative. In a course of 18 months in your entire life, have you been able to make $250,000 and keep it? Right? So in relation to your life and your results so far, that's very fast to get rich. And when you're at about 250,000, make no mistake about it, you're rich. Relatively, right? But then after that, you're going to have to grow your wealth slow, and you're going to have to make the right decisions to keep doing the same things you were doing at $500 as you get to $500,000, so on and so forth. That's why, in addition to learning how to chart, learning the technical analysis, which is going to be in our next series, persistence is going to be key. Right? Embracing the process and also focusing on the progress, not perfection. It's not going to go just like we planned it. It's not going to go as simple as, oh, we're at $1,000. Now we're at 2. Now we're at 4. No, man, it's going to be pullbacks in between. It's going to be some growth. There's going to be some bumps. Not only are you going to make some mistakes, you're going to probably break some rules too. Most traders that I've ever met, if not all, have broken a rule. And when they break a rule, they got clapped. And that, it's kind of like when you got a child and you're like, hey, don't touch the stove. It's hot. The oven's hot. Don't touch it, right? But they see those cookies on the table. They see the cookies, right? And they're like, man, I just want a cookie, man. I don't care what they talking about. And they go touch that cookie and they burn their hand. I remember my son did that when he was young. He was like 2 years old. And he tried to pick up a cookie and burnt his little hand. And he was crying. And I said, you know what, kid? That was awesome. Because I told you before, but now I know for certain that you're not going to touch that hot pot again. That you're not going to touch that hot stove again. Right? So that's why we're not looking for perfection. We're just looking for progress. So when you chase a gain a little too hard, when you see that 40% and you're like, I think it's going to go some more, I'm going to hold it. And then it reverses on you and then you wind up getting stopped out. Or when you trade without a stop loss and you lose 50% on the trade or 60% on the trade, and now you're really hurting and crying, I'm going to say the same thing I said to my kid. Great. I bet you don't do that again. Right? So that's the sauce. That's what we're looking to do. And this is how we're going to use the concept of the magic penny in a real application to change everything about our lives and our family lives. Thank you for joining me today. Our next series is going to be great. It's going to be on technical analysis. I showed you how to grow the money. Now I'm going to show you the skill to get it. Y'all be blessed till next time. We out.